The Dance of the Dragons has always been described in the history books as a war that destroyed the greatest dynasty Westeros had ever seen. But the most terrifying part about House of the Dragon Season 3 is not that the war is finally beginning. It's that every character still believes they can survive it. Rhaenyra believes she can reclaim the Iron Throne and restore her father's legacy. Aemon believes fear and fire will force the Seven Kingdoms to kneel. Alicent believes she can still protect what remains of her family. Daemon believes destiny itself has chosen him to shape the future of House Targaryen. But if George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood teaches us anything, it is this. The Dance of the Dragons has no winners. Every victory comes with a funeral. Every dragon that takes flight leaves another family in ashes. And Season 3 is where the game finally changes. The negotiations are over. The speeches are over. The councils around painted tables are over. The dragons are no longer preparing for war. They are going to war. The Battle of the Gullet is approaching. A battle so devastating that even showrunner Ryan Condal compared its importance to the Battle of Helm's Deep from The Lord of the Rings. The world of Westeros before the Gullet will not be the same world that exists afterward. But before we watch dragons fall from the sky, kingdoms burn, and the Targaryen family tear itself apart, we need to remember how this tragedy truly began. Because this war was never about a crown. It began with a misunderstanding, a prophecy,
Aegon called his dream the Song of Ice and Fire,
and a dying king's final words. This video contains spoilers for House of the Dragon Seasons 1 and 2, as well as potential spoilers from George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood. If you enjoy deep breakdowns, hidden details, and theories connecting the books to the HBO universe, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the next stage of the Dance of the Dragons is going to change everything. The mistake that started a civil war. One of the greatest tragedies in the entire history of Westeros is that the Dance of the Dragons began because two people were having completely different conversations. King Viserys I Targaryen spent his entire life trying to prevent his family from destroying itself. And in the end, his final words accidentally guaranteed that destruction. Years before his death, Viserys made a decision that shocked the Seven Kingdoms. He named his daughter Rhaenyra Targaryen as his heir. Lords from every corner of Westeros bent the knee and swore loyalty to her claim. The decision was not simply about politics. In the HBO version of the story, Viserys carried a secret passed down from Aegon the Conqueror himself, a Song of Ice and Fire. Aegon believed a terrible darkness would one day arrive from the north, and that a Targaryen needed to unite the realm against it. For Viserys, Rhaenyra was not just his chosen successor. She was the guardian of a prophecy. This is one of the biggest differences between Fire and Blood and the television adaptation. In the book, the prophecy is never revealed because the maesters writing the history do not know about it. The show turns the Iron Throne into something more than a symbol of power. It becomes a responsibility connected to the future events of Game of Thrones. And that makes Alicent Hightower's misunderstanding even more tragic. When Viserys, heavily medicated with milk of the poppy and barely able to separate the past from the present, speaks about Aegon and the dream of a prince who would unite the realm, Alicent believes he is speaking about their son, Aegon II. But Viserys is speaking about Aegon the Conqueror. Two Aegons, one prophecy, and a misunderstanding that kills thousands. This has become one of the most debated moments among fans. Many readers of Fire and Blood argue that the war would have happened regardless, because the Hightowers had been preparing to challenge Rhaenyra's claim for years. The Green Council was already filled with people who feared a woman sitting the Iron Throne and who wanted their bloodline to rule Westeros. And they are probably right. Alicent's misunderstanding was not the beginning of the conspiracy. It was the final excuse they needed. Within hours of Viserys' death, the Greens moved quickly. The king's death was hidden from the public. Loyal supporters of Rhaenyra were imprisoned or executed, and Prince Aegon was crowned Aegon II Targaryen. At that moment, Westeros gained two rulers, two monarchs, two courts, two armies, and most dangerously of all, two sides with dragons. The Blacks and Greens, a family war that became a continental disaster. The most painful part of the Dance of the Dragons is that there are no foreign invaders. There is no Night King, no army marching from another continent. Every dragon that burns a castle belongs to the same family. The Targaryens spent more than a century conquering Westeros with dragons. They were viewed as almost godlike beings, a family touched by the power of old Valyria. But House of the Dragon asks a terrifying question. What happens when the most powerful weapons in the world are controlled by a family that hates itself? Season 2 was not the war people expected. Many fans anticipated endless dragon battles from the beginning, but the second season focused on something much more dangerous: preparation, alliances, politics, spies, assassinations, the gathering of armies. Because in Westeros, the deadliest battles often happen before the soldiers ever reach the battlefield. Rhaenyra, the Blacks, needed houses to honor the oaths they made to her father, securing alliances from powerful families, including the North, where the Stark legacy once again became involved in the destiny of the Targaryens. Meanwhile, the Greens controlled King's Landing, the Iron Throne, and the machinery of government. They had the advantage of appearing legitimate, even though their claim was built upon a controversial interpretation of Viserys' final words. But there was one person among the Greens who was far more dangerous than anyone realized: Aemon Targaryen. The boy who was mocked for not having a dragon became the man riding the largest and most terrifying dragon alive, Vhagar. And he was about to prove that he was willing to destroy even his own family to gain power. The day Aemon stopped being a prince and became a threat to everyone. If Season 1 was about the birth of the conflict, and Season 2 was about the world choosing sides, then Season 3 begins with a terrifying realization. The most dangerous person in Westeros is no longer the man sitting on the Iron Throne. It is the man standing behind him. Aemon Targaryen spent his entire life living in the shadow of others. He was the second son. The boy was mocked for not having a dragon. The child who lost an eye after claiming Vhagar and carried that scar as a reminder that kindness and weakness had no place in the Game of Thrones. But there is something fascinating about Aemon's journey. Everything he suffered shaped him into the exact kind of ruler Westeros should fear. Unlike his brother Aegon II, Aemon is disciplined. He studies history, he trains constantly, he understands warfare, he believes he was born for greatness. In another timeline, those qualities could have made him one of the greatest Targaryen kings in history. But the same qualities that make him impressive also make him terrifying. Because Aemon does not simply want victory, he wants dominance. Season 2 proved that when the Battle of Rook's Rest changed everything. Officially, the battle was a victory for the Greens. They killed Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, one of the most experienced dragon riders alive, and removed one of Rhaenyra's greatest military assets. But beneath that victory was a betrayal that could destroy the Green cause from within. As Aegon II flew into battle on Sunfire, desperate to prove himself as a warrior king, Aemon saw something that no one else did: an opportunity. The attack from Vhagar did not simply destroy Rhaenys in melees. It left Aegon burned, broken, and unable to rule effectively. The question that has haunted fans ever since is this: was it truly an accident? Or did Aemon finally decide that his older brother was an obstacle standing between him and destiny? The show makes the answer disturbingly clear. Aemon did not hesitate when his brother was in the path of Dragonfire, and when Aegon was left crippled, Aemon stepped forward to rule as Prince Regent. For the first time, the boy who was always overlooked held the power he had always believed belonged to him. But power has a price. And Aemon is about to discover that ruling through fear creates enemies faster than it creates loyalty. Rhaenyra's greatest victory may become her biggest mistake. While Aemon was taking control of the Greens, Rhaenyra was making the most controversial decision of her entire campaign. She opened the doors to common-born descendants of House Targaryen, the Dragon Seeds. For generations, the Targaryens practiced incest and kept their bloodline tightly controlled because they believed dragon riding was a sacred gift. But wars do not care about tradition. Wars care about numbers.